Honestly, like the day and time it happened kind of caught me by surprise. I was actually playing in Wisconsin at a G League game, so had a voicemail on my phone from Chris McIntosh, and he never called me before. So I was like, this has got to be something important. Either I did something bad or it's something good. And yeah, I just called him, and he told me not to tell anyone. I immediately got off the phone and started telling everybody. I'm not good at following rules, but yeah, it was just. I mean, it's just like you get overcome with this like emotion that you can't really describe. You start like thinking backwards, and it puts you in a place like where you love. Like I love here, I love Wisconsin, I love the school, I love being back on campus. So it's just, yeah. I mean, somewhere in there is what I'm trying to say.
Obviously, when you're playing and you're here, you're not thinking about maybe one day your name is going to be here forever. Has that kind of set in too?
I mean, in a lot of respects, it kind of has. Just because of, I don't think we understood at the time, like, really what we were achieving. But when you step out of, being on campus and being in the middle of it in those first couple years, being removed from it, you start to realize, like, how special everything was. Like, in the middle of it, you're just, from game to game to game to move on. You don't think about, the awards you're winning and the games you're winning, the championships you're winning. So, yeah, like, did I know this, like, honor was going to come at some point? Like, absolutely, but that doesn't make it, any less special because, my 4 years here, I know they get like 14 years here now on campus and they go to 17 different schools, but, my 4 years here, I just really wanted to maximize my opportunity. I felt really lucky to be able to have a scholarship to come here in the first place because I wasn't highly recruited. And I just wanted to make something of myself, and I think I overachieved. Mr. Polzine.
Think back of your time here, are there like moments like that when you get that call, when you start thinking back? What are the moments that
My wife was actually asking me about this, and I kind of describe it like it's like kind of the memories between the memories. Like you start thinking about, obviously, the Final Four is playing in a championship game, Big Ten championships, all that stuff is always at the forefront. Like that's always what's going to be described, but you don't talk about, like the small things we did. Like, we created a group of guys that really came together and achieved, put in all this work to like achieve something great, but also at the same time we're having like the time of our lives. Like we didn't waste a moment. So that's what I'm saying. Like you start thinking back about like those moments in between the big moments while you were on campus, and it's like I brought Josh here. I just called Josh one day and was like, hey, you're coming with me and there's no questions asked. And he's like, sure. Guys, I got 3 kids. So it's just like I don't really see. Now you got me like thinking about all these things, and it's like I just remember all the great times we had honestly away from the basketball court, and that's what made the experience so much more special. Like if it was just what we did on the court, like you guys I don't think would have had, I mean, Mr. Polzine can tell you about how much fun we were having and how fun we made literally everything we did. It's like we didn't waste a moment while we were here, and 4, some of the guys 5, had the time of their lives for those 4 or 5 years.
I'm gonna start calling him Mr. Polzine.
Yeah, it's Mr. Polzine.
There's a 10-year waiting period for this once your career is over, and you hit it on 10 years, which doesn't happen a ton.
Yeah, I didn't.
Does that feel special? That you're one of those guys that is like a yes.
Yeah, I mean, I would have taken it if it was today, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. Like the honor doesn't change, I think, on the length. Like obviously it's extremely cool to be, immediately in the Hall of Fame, and I always thought back like, I remember at my jersey retirement night, I thought that was an extremely special moment, but I remember thinking to myself, like, when it comes to my basketball career, I don't feel like I have like the full perspective yet. And now I feel like I'm at that point where I have like the full perspective of where I started and kind of getting closer towards the end of everything. So it's easier for me to look back now at all the things I was doing, but like I said in the middle earlier, you're going from thing to thing to thing to thing. You're always thinking about what's next. And now it's like nice to be able to sit back and like reflect and start thinking about like all the cool things that I did, because when you go places, I mean, I live in Arizona and I still get people talking about like our Final Four teams, and obviously, beating Arizona twice was pretty nice, and they all hate me for it there. But you start to gain like that full perspective about just how far you actually came, not only as a player but as a person too. And I think that's what this has really given me, is like just a chance to sit down and think back about like everything I did and everything, what it means and how it's totally changed my life.
Another key question for you. You kind of talked about developing as a player, but from a standpoint of developing as a man, as an adult, what do you think? Can you pinpoint how, the UW experience affected you there, and maybe what benefits?
Yeah, I mean, I think any guy on our team would tell you I walked in through the door maybe the most immature person they've probably ever seen. But I always like to keep things lighthearted and have fun. And I haven't really talked about this too much, but I came from pretty, like, my parents got divorced when I was a really young age, and that kind of gave me the ability to like kind of do whatever I wanted and be this really immature person. And my family, for a lot of respects, like, we're not together on everything. And I talk about this now, like, having perspective. Like, my basketball career here, like, kind of brought my family a lot closer, like, especially from like the parents. They wouldn't do a lot of things together, but they're coming to games, they're sitting together. I got to see and look over and see like my parents and my whole family sitting there together, like, cheering me on. And now that I think back about that to like where I'm at now, I'm about to start my own family. I always think that was something I was always kind of like hoping for, and basketball did that for me. And I think once I started getting more comfortable in that area of life, that's when I started like mature and grow as a person. And a lot of that started here on campus, playing basketball. And I think a lot of credit of that goes to the coaching staff and those people here too, because they allowed me to be myself, but also pushed me to be a better, more complete person. And I feel like basketball has always been like my teacher with everything. And as I started to get better and better, I started to grow more and more as a person. And I think a lot of the decisions I've made since, and the career I've had, and stayed in a place for as long as I have, and got the wife that I have, and all these things are a result of those 4 years here, like growing as this super immature kid who's used to getting away with everything, to kind of like a somewhat grown adult when I left. I wouldn't say far from a finished product, but Mr. Polzine will tell you.